Hey there friends, we are jumping into another weekly meal prep with coffee in hand. This week I have a lot of really delicious meals. We are going to start out with Monday. We're going to do a bow tie pasta, and this pasta is so easy. When I found the recipe, it was like, yes, this is the type of meals I'm all about. That is easy stuff, that's delicious, that doesn't take that long to prep. I did get my water started over here for the pasta, and it takes about a cup of grated Parmesan cheese. And then since this has the protein and a carb in it, I'm going to do green beans as the side, and I will just make those up tonight when we eat this meal, since I like to do my preps at the beginning of the week. We are going to add 1 pound to our skillet here on a medium heat. And then I am also going to add some salt to our pasta water because I forgot to do that when I put this on. You always must salt the pasta water. I used to think that that was like such an extra step. Then I started doing it and realizing how much better it makes our pasta taste. Speaking of pasta, and you guys know that I usually make gluten-free friendly meals around our house, I'm using the Jovial gluten-free bow tie pasta. We really love Jovial. I feel like the texture turns out almost like regular pasta, so this is my go-to when I can find it. My water is to a boil, and this says a cook time of 9 minutes. Now that the meat has browned, I'm going to go ahead and add in 2 teaspoons of butter. In the original recipe, tablespoons, 2 tablespoons. In the original recipe, she had suggested putting this in first, but I was afraid it was gonna burn the meat a little bit, so decided to brown it first. Once your meat is cooked most of the way through, you're gonna add 3 cups of beef broth, some salt, some W sauce, Italian seasoning. Just give that a nice little stir and let it get to a simmer. And our pasta is done. So I'm just draining that off. Now that it's simmering, we've got our shredded parm. We're just gonna mix that in. This is so easy, and we're going to just get it nice and creamy before we add the pasta in. And we're gonna let this cook together until the sauce thickens just a bit. And I will put this in a storage container, and I will reheat this just in the skillet, just like it is right now. You also could top it off with some more parm, but how stinking easy is that? Hey friends, let's take a minute and talk about recipe organization. This is something that I have struggled with forever, and we've chatted about it in other videos as well, and I have finally found a tool that seriously simplifies all of my recipes. You all know, because I share recipes every week here on my channel, that I get recipes out of old cookbooks that were my mom's. I get them off of websites and other social media platforms, and sometimes it can feel like I've got recipes coming in from everywhere every week. So I found a way to organize them. I want to thank Resemi for sponsoring today's video. They have an amazing app that simplifies all of these things. I can't even tell you how much time I have wasted trying to relocate a recipe that I thought I saved somewhere and could not find it. The solution is Resemi, because they help you glean all of your recipes, whether it's out of a cookbook, whether it's off of Pinterest or Instagram or TikTok. Wherever you find your recipe, you easily save it with just a click of a button to the Resemi app. Besides all of that, and it's really just that easy, it's like not filling in all of the little details, it does it for you, but it also helps you plan out meals for the week and create grocery lists. It just saves time in general when it comes to cooking and recipe finding and locating. So you're gonna start out by clicking the link in the description box, downloading the app, and making a profile. Once you've done that, then all you have to do is go to the location the recipe is and save it to the Recipe app. It is literally that easy. I honestly was skeptical at first, but then I realized that it had all of the ingredients listed in the ingredient section. It had the instructions there, and they were copied perfectly into the Recipe app. Once you have all of your recipes in the Recipe app, you can easily organize them into categories depending on how you like to organize your recipes. So you can put them into breakfast, lunch, dinner. I even have one that is for freezer meal preps, so I can keep track of what I'm gonna use those recipes for. And then from there, if I have a meal prep planned and I want to make a grocery list up, it's so easy to just get my ingredients and get everything made in a timely fashion. You all know that I'm definitely health conscious, and there's even micro tracking through the recipes you save with AI technology. I love the meal plan feature just because I'm always making meal plans, so I've got my ducks in a row for the week when it comes to my meals, as you guys know from all of my weekly meal preps. And so being able to use this tool to create that meal plan, and it's all in one place. I'm not connecting dots with all kinds of notes and other things that I've made, makes this so golden. Promise you all are going to love this tool as much as I have. It's so helpful when it comes to meal planning. So click on the link in the description box below and download the Recipe app today. All right, moving on to Tuesday's meal. This is a one dish meal for the most part. So I'm just going to serve it with a tossed salad. I've been trying to get our salads in during the week just to get those extra leafy greens. But this recipe is a good one for those of you that maybe have an overgrowing amount of zucchini in your garden. I know I did not do a garden this year, but I know that they can go crazy and you're trying to find something new to have with zucchini. Have zucchini with. So this one is a great one if you have tomatoes as well. If you are growing your own food, you probably could almost make this recipe just from the things out of your garden. It's a very garden-friendly recipe. So you want 2 to 3 zucchini, depending on their size. Okay, I know what they can look like, y'all. Can be as big as my arm, so if you've got one that big, you know, use your own judgment on how much you want to put into this. But I'm just halving the zucchini and slicing it into slices. I'm putting it in this bowl over here, and then we're going to cut up a few other veggies as well. I also have some cherry tomatoes here that we're just going to slice in half. I love recipes that include fresh tomato that is roasted, because that's really what happens to it once you bake it. So it ends up being like a roasted tomato in it. Oh, it's just so delicious. Next, we are going to take half of a red onion. That's what the recipe says. When I say certain things, I quickly find out that different parts of the world and different people call things different things. This can be a purple onion or a red onion. Some people call it a red onion. I've been corrected both ways, y'all. I'm sorry, I'm just saying what the recipe says. I decided before I cut up the chicken and put it in here, I'm going to put in the olive oil and the seasonings. We have dried oregano, half a teaspoon of dried basil, smoked paprika, you all know my love for that, salt, and pepper. Now I'm just gonna take a big spoon and stir this together. I already love it. It already looks so appetizing with all of these beautiful colors from the veggies. I have 3 chicken breasts here, and this is where this recipe comes together pretty quickly. but I'm just going to cut this into bite-sized pieces and add it in to our veggies. I have preheated my oven to 375 and I'm going to actually bake this now. I know sometimes I prep things and I cook the proteins later, but I just decided for this one to bake it ahead of time, mostly because it does have a little bit of baking time that it needs to bake for, and it will be a whole lot quicker to reheat by just popping it back in the oven for a little bit than waiting for it to bake all the way on the day that we need this. So just stirring all of that chicken in, and then I'm going to go ahead and spray my 9x13 here. This is an avocado oil spray that I really like. The recipe calls for mozzarella cheese, but I'm actually using something completely different. I'm using a vegetable farmer's cheese. I think it was the last time I took you all bulk food shopping with me, I was talking about this and how this is something I grew up eating. And it was so interesting to hear your feedback and how this is something that is in certain areas or parts of the world. And then other people were like, I've never heard of farmer's cheese. I don't know what that is. So there's a regular farmer's cheese and a vegetable farmer's cheese, and there's maybe other flavors, I don't really know. And then we're also going to use a Parmesan. I shredded this whenever I was shredding for the pasta that we made. So we're just gonna pour this into our pan, spread everything around. Oh, it smells so good. Such a healthy dinner dish. Then I'm going to take my cheese that I'm using in place of the mozzarella. Then I will bake this and cover it and put it in the refrigerator until we need it for the night that we'll be eating this. And this does get baked covered with foil first, and then to finish it out by uncovering it. I'm assuming they cover it with foil to help steam the vegetables. And into the oven we go. Okay, so for Wednesday, we're going to do a shepherd's pie. I actually haven't made this in quite some time. So I have 2 pounds of beef we're gonna put into the skillet here in just a minute. And also, I wanted to touch on this because I mentioned this a couple of months ago, and a few of you were like, I never thought about doing this. So this is a casserole dish that I thrifted. I love taking you guys thrifting whenever I get time to go with me. So if you go back on my videos, you may find some thrifting, or on my other channel, which is linked below as well. But this is a thrifted casserole dish that has a lid, and you can actually find these really easily. This is something that has been around forever, where you can find dishes with lids, and then you can prep in them, bake in them, and store them as well. I know it's not like a totally new idea, but it's harder to find dishes with the matching lid that's not like a Pyrex dish in stores nowadays, but if you go thrifting, you can find them for only a couple of dollars. So let's chat just a second about how much our freezer meal preps help out our weekly meal preps. So if you guys remember, I don't know if it was my last freezer meal prep or the one before that, but we made up a bunch of pans of mashed potatoes for the freezer. I knew I was gonna be making this meal, so I went ahead and pulled this out of the freezer, and this just makes this meal so simple to put together for this week. To be honest, this is probably the more time-consuming part of making shepherd's pie or cottage pie, which is probably the technical term of this because I'm using beef. But since I have this ready for me, all I need to do is do the bottom layer with the beef. So let's get over to the stove and do that. So speaking of freezer preps helping our weekly preps, it's just gonna go hand in hand always. But if you guys remember, a couple of weeks ago, we also prepped a ton of onions, pre-chopped. So again, this is cutting down on time and mess in this weekly prep. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of avocado oil into my skillet, and I'm going to add in my diced onion. and get them kind of thawed out and start frying, and then we will add the beef in. Now that our onions are broken up, we're gonna go ahead and add in our 2 pounds of ground beef and just break it up really well. We will just salt and pepper our beef, of course, with mineral salt and a little black pepper. While the meat is browning over there, I did grease the casserole dish, and I'm going to go ahead and chop up a little bit of fresh parsley for the top of this. I'm also going to top it with cheese. I don't always do that, but I guess that's something that's more common than not when it comes to cottage pie. We always call this shepherd's pie, but I know technically it's cottage pie. And a lot of people, I guess, put cheese on top of theirs. I have before, but it's something that I don't always remember to do. Now that our meat is browned, we're just gonna add about 2 cups of mixed frozen veggies to this. This is something else that saves just a bit of time, just because you're not cutting all the vegetables up, and just is a little bit easier. And you can use organic or not versions of the mixed veggies. They're pretty easy to find at the grocery store. After you give the veggies time to soften up, we're gonna add some tomato paste. This is my homemade tomato paste that I'm going to be putting in. And this just helps to give that tomato flavor without adding a lot of liquid, which is really helpful in a dish like this. Now we're also going to add some W sauce in and stir it all together. Okay, now we are gonna layer everything together. So the meat layer goes on the bottom. And yes, I have a big silver spoon. My mom always had these. And when I first got my own kitchen and we were first married, I thought it would just be so fun to have all these cute spoons and whatnot. And I'll tell you what, a couple of years ago, I went and bought myself quite a few of these big silver spoons because they are so handy. Stuff doesn't stick to them in the dishwasher. They get clean, and they're just like my favorite thing to use in the kitchen. I actually even got rid of my rubber spatula or plastic or silicone spatulas because they start like clinging. Flavor starts clinging to them after a while, and that just kind of bothers me. So being able to use something that I know actually gets clean in the dishwasher is a good feeling. Okay, so to this we are going to add our mashed potatoes. They're a little funny looking just because I did get them out of the freezer and they have not been heated yet, but don't worry, they will go back to great mashed potatoes once this is baked on the day that we eat it. I did myself a favor and pre-shredded a bunch of cheddar cheese this week. So I've got some to pop right on here. As most of you know, I like to shred my own cheese just because it melts really nice versus the pre-shredded. Then we're gonna top it off with a little bit of that chopped parsley, just to make a nice green and give some more flavor. Now all I gotta do is pop my lid on. Ooh, we got a few pieces of cheese getting away. And I can put this in the refrigerator. For Thursday, we are doing a honey garlic chicken, and I'm gonna make up some rice and steamed broccoli to go with this on the night that we eat it. And since this is going to be a marinade, I'm gonna have that time while the thighs are either in the oven or grilling. I'm not sure which way we're gonna do it this week. And I'll have time to make the rice while that is happening. So let's go ahead and make our marinade. I am doing some skin on bone-in chicken thighs. Always love doing thigh recipes with you all just because it's so budget friendly. And we're going to make up our marinade first. We do need to juice a lemon, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that here. And then we're going to also chop up some fresh ginger. I debated on using some dried ginger, like ginger powder, but decided to go for the fresh. It always gives such a good flavor to these types of recipes, but I did have to actually get some at my grocery store. But just remember, when it comes to fresh garlic and fresh ginger and onions, you can always use onion powder, garlic powder, ginger powder, if that's what you have on hand, instead of spending the extra for the fresh items. Okay, so I've got my fresh ginger in there. It's not necessarily going to stick to the chicken, but it's gonna help add flavor to the marinade. Next, we're gonna put a couple of tablespoons of either soy sauce or liquid aminos or coconut aminos. That's what I prefer to use as an alternative. Then we are going to put honey in this, and I get my honey locally in 5-gallon buckets, and then I put it in jars like this. Next, you want some minced garlic, and this is some of the frozen stuff that we make in our freezer meal preps. Then I'm going to put some avocado oil in, some sriracha, and this is something you could take out if you don't like the spice, or you can put a lot more in if you like the spice. We're gonna do some salt, and I like to use my mineral salt. And we're gonna take a little bit of fresh cilantro, and I like to keep mine in water in the refrigerator just to keep it fresh. Again, because I don't know how much of this is really gonna stick to the chicken, it's more for flavor, I'm not gonna go crazy in mincing it really small. So we are gonna add a little bit of cornstarch to this. I like to get mine non-GMO organic. I know cornstarch is still not the best thing, but sometimes you need it for thickeners. And if you can at least get it non-GMO, that works well. Okay. So now I'm gonna add in about a half teaspoon of cornstarch. Gonna whisk as I go. This is just gonna help the marinade stick to the chicken. Okay, so I'm going to put this into a large gallon bag, just because I feel like it sits around the chicken better than just leaving it in a bowl. Kind of can squeeze the air out of the bag and get the maximum absorption from the chicken. All right, so now I'm just gonna put my chicken into the marinade. I washed my hands, y'all. I just feel like I have to wash them 100 times when I make something with chicken. All right, so we're just gonna squeeze the air out, and that's gonna help to really sit the chicken in the marinade. Oh, the flavors, it's just so aromatic with the ginger and the cilantro. And now our chicken is good to go. And honestly, I know a lot of people wonder, you know, what it's like sometimes to prep ahead. So many things, like even the so many things, like even the cottage pie we made is going to have so much more flavor and just taste so much better when it sat a little bit. I know that sounds kind of odd, and maybe a lot of people don't think about it that way, but just like when you're marinating meat, when something has time to sit and the flavors to really combine, it just tastes so good. So for whatever reason, I have been craving sweet potatoes lately. I don't know if I need them or what. But Friday, we are gonna make this really good sweet potato skillet meal. It's great because it is a one-pot meal, so everything goes into the skillet, which I love, simplify things. And it has like Southwest flavors in it, which is something that's always a score with my family. But the instructions, I'm gonna mix up just a little bit. So you are supposed to fry the beef first in the skillet, and then after that, you are supposed to fry the sweet potatoes and then kind of combine everything. And I was thinking about this, and I'm like, how can I make this happen faster? You know me, always looking for efficiency, especially when it comes to meals. And so I was like, you know what? I am going to air fry these diced sweet potatoes while the beef is frying in the skillet, and then we can put everything together, put the rest of the ingredients in, and it's gonna go just like half the time. It will take half the time to make it as the original recipe. So I have my little tray. Y'all know how much I love my little Nosh air fryer. And so I've got my tray over here, and I'm just going to put the potatoes on here. I put down some, I almost said tissue paper. That would not work. Do not do that. Would not suggest, would not advise. I put down some parchment paper just to make things easier, and I'm not even putting oil or anything on these just because there's gonna be a lot of other stuff in the skillet. So I know I can just bake them in the air fryer and get them nice and tender so they're ready to add into the skillet. I would love to hear your feedback on the consistency that I've had lately in posting, if you guys have felt really inspired, and if you like certain types of videos better than other videos. Feedback always helps me so much because it just helps me to show you, it just helps me to know what you guys like to see. Just because I am doing weekly meal preps doesn't mean that I necessarily have to film them if you guys aren't very interested in seeing them. But for the most part, you seem to be enjoying the content consistency lately, and I've been pretty happy to just spend time with you all more than what I was over the summer. So the recipe says about 2 cups of sweet potatoes, and I'm gonna be honest with you, this looks like 2 cups to me. So I don't think I'm going to peel the other sweet potato I pulled out. So I'm just gonna put these in the air fryer, and then I'll check on them and stir them as we go. Okay, so I am just going to go ahead and use some of my pre-chopped frozen onions again, starting that out in the skillet before we add the beef. This recipe calls for 1 pound of ground beef, but you could use ground turkey. You could probably even get away with using pork in this as well, whatever you happen to have on hand or whatever your preference is. Okay, once your meat is browned, you're gonna kind of make a little spot in the middle of the pan. And you can try adding more oil if you need to. I just put some of my frozen fresh minced garlic. We're just gonna let that thaw and fry up just a little bit in the middle before we mix it in. I've also been checking on the sweet potatoes, and honestly, I think this is the way to go. Since I didn't put any oil on the outside of them, they're frying up a little bit on the crispy side, which I think is gonna help them from getting like really mushy in our skillet meal. At this point, I'm just gonna add in some salt and pepper. All right, we have a can of green chilies. We have a pint jar of my home canned diced tomatoes. I'm gonna add some ground cumin and chili powder. Just get everything combined. I also wanted to make a note that in the original recipe, they suggest adding water, and I just simply didn't drain my tomatoes since obviously that water is going to be partially tomato juice. It's gonna have a whole lot more flavor. Gonna let this simmer for just a little bit to combine flavors. And I'm just gonna add in the sweet potatoes. Now you can kind of see what I was talking about. They're very roasted, and I think they're gonna hold their shape. I hope they're gonna hold their shape a little bit better. So just going to gently stir this in. The recipe creator recommends putting cheese on top, but you could totally do this dairy-free and not add the cheese. So for reheating this, I probably will put this right into the oven and just reheat it that way on the night we eat it. So I am hand washing a few of the dishes that don't go into the dishwasher, and there's something that I've been thinking about lately, and that is I'm wondering what it would be like if I would film cleaning my kitchen after the meal prep. I kind of thought it would be funny to call it, like, I don't know, something about after party, you know, meal prep after party or something like that, where we can just yap and clean together. I know for myself, one of my biggest goals when it comes to doing these meal preps is to leave with a clean kitchen, because then I feel like I've accomplished what I set out to do, just in the fact that I'm trying to make less stress for myself during the week. And so starting out the week with most of my meals prepped and the kitchen cleaned up would just be the best. And it's not that it always happens that way. I don't always get everything cleaned up, and there's sometimes the next day, you know, some things that need to be cleaned. But I just thought maybe it would motivate you guys as well if I just combine a little bit of cleaning motivation. If you guys have been around for a long time, you know. I used to do tons of cleaning motivation videos, and that was one of the things I started out with on YouTube, was doing cleaning motivation videos. And I don't really know why I stopped, to be honest with you, other than I started meal prepping and you guys really enjoyed seeing that. And yeah, so anyhow, I'm just giving you a few of my thoughts while I stay motivated enough to clean up after this prep. I'm really happy with everything I got done today. That last meal, so good. And actually, my husband even tasted the Mediterranean chicken dish, the one that we put into the oven, and he said the flavors were incredible. So there you go, you got a review already on that meal if you're trying to decide what to make out of this video. I got a 5-star from a husband. Anyways, I am going to finish cleaning up, and I'm so glad that my refrigerator is set for the week. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Check out Resemi in the description box below. Give me a comment. Let me know what you're up to. I like hearing from you all. And give this video a like, and I'll see you guys in my next video.